Hello, Ohio State fans. I'm Patrick Murphy from Bucknuts and 247 Sports here with Cody Nagel from Go Pokes 247. We're doing a special version of this, our live show that we also use as a podcast with the news that came out on Tuesday night that Jim Knowles is going to take over as Ohio State's defensive coordinator come January 2nd. Cody, thanks for joining us. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, Patrick. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into it. Let's start with just what is a Jim Knowles defense as you've learned it over these last few years. I'll start you off easy there.
Yeah, it's pretty complex. I mean, it's a 4-2-5. They do a lot of different looks up front on the defensive line. The back end and the secondary does a lot of different disguises with their coverage, and really confuses the offense. And obviously that showed, as the years went on and he was here and the players learned it and got it down. It was difficult for Big 12 offenses to kind of break apart, I guess. So yeah, it's a 4-2-5. Just those two linebackers in the middle, but they've got a position that he calls the Leo position. It's basically a hybrid of a defensive end and edge rusher slash linebacker that can kind of go back in coverage if he needs to. And they've had pretty good success with that position as well. So pretty complex defense, but also one that some teams across the country also run too. So
Yeah, it sounds sort of similar to Ohio State. That Leo position was one I had marked down to ask you about. What kind of player are they looking for there? What is the ideal player for that position? Obviously, had some different guys play that spot with Oklahoma State, but what are they looking for? Body type, athlete, that type of thing.
yeah, just kind of a sort of an undersized defensive end, basically. I mean,
Okay.
not I think defensive end. I think Chase Young type guy that's big, bulky, that's just going to plow through tackles and stuff like that. But the guy that they had success with this year was Colin Oliver. He pretty much played sort of linebacker at high school, and they moved him down to this Leo position, which is a little more up on the line. Um, so yeah, kind of a undersized defensive end and maybe a little bit oversized linebacker kind of. So just kind of right in that middle basically. But
And
very, very quick. So I mean Colin's very speedy, shifty, quick twitch type of guy. So, very athletic type of, linebacker is what they're looking for.
Gotcha. You mentioned the kind of complexity of this defense making it difficult for offenses. I know that each year Coach Knowles was at Oklahoma State, the defense got better. Some Buckeye fans kind of pointed to, was this, flash in the pan last year, or is this really something that got better? I'm kind of curious, how long did it take for this to really catch on? Obviously, Ohio State with kind of the standards here expects to be better by next year. How quickly, how difficult is it for this defense to be learned by the guys that are going to take part in it, do you think?
Yeah, so year one was not great, I'll be honest. There was a lot of, struggles. It definitely took Jim some time to kind of figure out the Big 12. I think he came in here thinking he could, whatever he did at Duke and what he coached previously, he could just come into the Big 12 and do, and definitely needed to kind of shift his approach. But yeah, year one was kind of a struggle. You look at year three or year two and three and obviously four now, it was sort of just this gradual progression of getting better each year. And, that also was, testament to the guys that they had stick around throughout these 4 years. I mean, the guys that Oklahoma State's starting on defense now are, multiple year starters. They've been in his system for years now. They've learned it. So, I wouldn't expect, and obviously this isn't what Ohio State fans want to hear, but I wouldn't expect him to, get to Ohio State and, lead the country in total defense and stuff like that. It's maybe going to take a year or two to, kind of figure out because, like I said, it is a pretty complex defense. There is a lot of things you need to know and stuff like that. But once the players get used to him, learn all the different things they need to be doing, it's obviously proven to be effective.
And for Ohio State fans out there, I think at this point, even if he could get him back to a top 30, top 40 type of defense, moving into next year, that would, with the offense that the Buckeyes have, I think that would be okay for a year or two as things kind of get sorted out. There's been a lot of talk about guys that on the staff leaving here? I know you won't know much about that, but what about the type of coaches he works with at Oklahoma State? Do you see any coaches leaving Oklahoma State to join Jim Knowles' staff, or is there a certain type of coach that he tends to work well with?
I don't know if there's going to be any that go with him. Obviously, it's still pretty early. There's not much we've been able to learn on that front.
Sure.
But Oklahoma State's a very tight knit coaching staff. I mean, Mike Gundy does a good job of finding guys that that work well together. I think about the defensive line coach that they have here. Um, he was at Kansas State for a few years and then got down here. I think he's been here for 9 years now or so. Um, I mean, most of the guys I want to say were here before Knowles got here. So I don't know how many of those were, guys that or are guys that might follow him, but obviously that's not out of the possibility that some of those guys go. They've got a pretty good secondaries coach. I mean, both of them for cornerbacks and safeties that are good, both good recruiters. If Knowles is able to convince them to go with and stuff like that. So, obviously talented, coaches on the staff.
What's been the reaction down there to this move? Obviously, when you get a coach that can build up a defense like this, you want him to hang around. I read some of Mike Gundy's quotes, some of the players coach. I know it's only been a handful of hours here, but what's kind of been the reaction among Oklahoma State fans and kind of everybody around the program?
Yeah, very, very disappointed. I mean, I think everyone kind of got the feeling eventually he was, probably going to take a higher paid job maybe somewhere else. But I think Mike Gundy was really pushing for the administration to, try and match as close as they could to what other schools were offering. Yeah, there's a lot of disappointment. Obviously, most fans down here are just thankful for, what he was able to do and get, Oklahoma State to, national relevance again. Obviously they were literally inches away from maybe making the playoff if they win the Big 12 title there. I don't know if
Right.
many Ohio State fans saw that game on Saturday, but they were inches away from a game-winning touchdown that maybe they passed Cincinnati for a playoff spot. So yeah, just building up the defense again here. For so long, Mike Gundy's teams have been known for offense, and that's obviously changed here in the last couple of years. That it's been a defensive strength team. Yeah, disappointment, sort of some frustration. They're not able to match what these bigger schools and bigger athletic departments are paying. Obviously just thankful again for what he was able to do.
And I know there was talk about other schools being involved, looking at him as a defensive coordinator. From what you've heard, what you know, how many other programs, what kind of other programs were interested in Coach Knowles?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot. One of the first reports that came out was that Billy Napier at Florida, the new head coach down there, was trying to look at Jim Knowles. I know other schools that were mentioned out there were Penn State and Texas Tech. So yeah, I mean, big programs that were trying to get at him, or excuse me, get at him. But yeah, I mean, just bigger programs like that, and I'm sure there was many more that reached out to him, and maybe
Sure.
reports didn't get out there or anything.
I know you talked to Bill Kurlick, our recruiting guy, about Coach Knowles as a recruiter. Can you share some of, maybe don't go into too much detail, VIP piece on our site that our subscribers can check out, but just a general sense of what kind of recruiter Ohio State's getting in Jim Knowles?
Yeah, just one thing I mentioned was just a real personable guy. I mean, he gets along with his players. I mean, and you've seen that, over the years that he's been here. He gets along with the players. I mean, they treat him like, he's family. He treats the players like their family. And you see that in the reactions on Twitter and stuff when the news came out that he was leaving. I mean, they were all happy for him. Obviously they were, some of the younger ones were, disappointed that he's not going to stick around for a few more years. But um, I think he'll do a good job of, getting out on the recruiting trail and finding those guys that match his system.
You sort of touched on it there, and a lot of the videos I saw kind of talked about Coach Knowles is kind of a quirky human. What in covering him, what have you gotten to know about him? What can you tell Buckeye fans about kind of the guy that's coming to Columbus?
Yeah, so the word that's gotten thrown out there a lot this season was mad scientist.
I saw that.
Just very, um, he's a Cornell grad, so he's Ivy League smart. He's, very, very, very smart. There's been stories that, he locks himself in his office basically on Monday morning or Sunday evening, and starts putting together a game plan for the week. And by the time he comes out, he's almost in a sweat because he's been thinking and working so hard. And then goes out to practice and, starts going to work. Just stuff like that. Extremely hard worker. He obviously knows his football and knows how to stop offenses and stuff like that. But yeah, just quirky, mad scientist type guy. He can be very quiet at times, but then you'll see videos where he's yelling in the booth up in the box or whatever, or yelling at practice and stuff. And you know, one of the players said, I don't want to say he's like bipolar or something like that, but he's just got these like range of emotions of he can be real quiet, soft spoken 1 minute, and then the next minute he's, yelling at a player or something like that. And so just very up and down, but obviously the players love him and it works. So
It certainly sounds like Ohio State players will have to get used to a difference there, but certainly sounds like a guy who knows what he's doing. Anything else that Buckeye fans should know about Coach, about the defense that we didn't cover on here?
Not really that I can think of. You mentioned the players getting used to him. That was one thing that, a lot of the guys mentioned this year when we asked, what's the difference between, your relationship with Jim Knowles now and, that first year when he started 4 years ago. And, there was a lot of them that were, you know, I don't think I could play for this guy. That first year that was kind of confusing of like, he's an Ivy League guy talking super smart, kind of, way over my head sort of talk like that. Um, you know, the relationships that he's built with these guys just show that in the end it's going to pay off and it's going to hopefully be a success for you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you for jumping on, Cody. I appreciate your insight on new Ohio State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles. Again, if you missed any of it, the news that came out Tuesday night, he will join the Buckeye staff January 2nd after Ohio State's done with the Rose Bowl, Oklahoma State's done with the Fiesta Bowl. Buckeye fans, thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, whatever platform you're on. That always helps us out. We appreciate it. Cody, thank you again.
Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it.
All right.